Let's first talk about the grading scale for traumatic brain injuries. Over the years, there have been numerous proposed classification systems for grading a traumatic brain injury. In fact, in 1986, a man named Robert Cantu proposed a grading system that has become pretty widely accepted and also very helpful at assessing the severity of a traumatic brain injury, known as, of course, you guessed it, the Cantu grading system. Cantu, he defined a mild traumatic brain injury, also known as a concussion, to be no loss of consciousness, but you have confusion or amnesia for 30 minutes or less following the incident. Then in 1997, the American Academy of Neurology came out with some new guidelines that basically stated the same thing. They defined a concussion as no loss of consciousness, again, no loss of consciousness, but the individual's mental status resolved in less than 15 minutes as compared to Cantu's 30 minutes. Then, once we start dabbling into grade 2, also known as a moderate traumatic brain injury, Cantu defined it as less than 5 minutes of a loss of consciousness or post traumatic amnesia for longer than 30 minutes but less than 24 hours in duration. Then the American Academy of Neurology, they defined it as, again, still no loss of consciousness in grade 2, but they had mental status changes lasting longer than 15 minutes, okay? And then finally, when we have grade 3, also known as a severe traumatic brain injury, Cantu defined this as having greater than 5 minutes period of loss of consciousness or greater than 24 hours of post-traumatic amnesia. Whereas the American Academy of Neurology simply said grade 3 is a loss of consciousness, period. With all that being said, these are just two of the grading systems available, but I think they do a really good job emphasizing my point, as both Cantu and the American Academy of Neurology came to the same conclusion that a mild traumatic brain injury, also known as a concussion, does not require loss of consciousness, and it's only once you start dabbling in that moderate traumatic brain injury world that you may or may not have lost consciousness. And in fact, a recent study stated that more than 90% of patients diagnosed with a concussion do not have an associated loss of consciousness. So, moral of the story, losing consciousness, it can be helpful for a medical professional to know when diagnosing someone with a concussion, but they can't use a lack of losing consciousness to rule out a concussion.